you think some of Singapore's guiding principles when it comes to foreign policy?
First, we must continue to promote a rules-based international order. This is really important for a small state like Singapore, where economic growth is critical, global trade is important, and so work with WTO extensively. We negotiate free trade agreements both bilaterally and multilaterally. For example, the CTPP, EU-Singapore FTA. All these allow us to make sure that we are able to tap on the international market in a manner that works for everyone, because there are rules that one and everyone can follow. At the UN, for example, we also ensure that we actively engage in different platforms, different fora, in negotiating norms and regimes that will affect the global commons. So, for example, if we were very active during the negotiation of UNCLOS, very important, especially because we are a maritime nation. We continue to be active in those negotiations so that we are able to be part of even emerging issues like cybersecurity. So that's the first one, being ensuring that we continue to promote rules-based international order. Second one is in relation to the way we connect with our partners. We must continue to remain a credible, consistent, reliable partner where we are open in our dealings, we are honest with our dealings, we are fair to all parties. This has allowed us to be recognized as an independent sovereign country where we are not a vassal state of any other countries, and we advocate for positions that are for our own interests. And that has allowed us to be respected by members of the international community. Third issue with regards to foreign policy is that we must also ensure that we are relevant to the international community, we are relevant to others. And we need to, in that sense, stay capable of reinventing ourselves. I always say that we're always works in progress. It's always a journey. And staying relevant ensures that the international community appreciates our position. So we are very happy that we were asked to host the Trump-Kim Summit last year. That is a reflection of the international community's appreciation of what Singapore stands for. Our independence, our neutrality, our ability to provide space for such an important summit to take place. The final point really is we tell ourselves that we must be friends to everyone and enemy to none. If we have disagreements, we find ways, we use rule of law to settle disputes, settle disagreements. I think these are ways in which our foreign policy has helped us over the last 50 over years, and I hope we should continue doing so.
Do you expect any shift in some of the four principles that you mentioned earlier? Because today the international environment that we're looking at is getting more turbulent.
Sure.
And now we see new economies rising, new powers rising, and the trade dispute between the US and China, something that not many economists or even politicians have actually anticipated.
Sure.
What do you think some of these new external forces might actually reshape or might actually lead to a shift in how Singapore prioritizes its foreign policy principles?
Well, first and foremost, if you look at the four areas I highlighted, it has pillared our foreign policy. You can't run away from the fact that there will be shifts. Sudhir, you mentioned about the US-China trade tensions. We have to respond in a manner that continues to serve our interests, recognizing the fact that these are real things that are happening. The advocacy for a more the multilateral trading system, rules-based trading system, allows us to ensure that like-minded countries continue to advocate for such a system, such that we do not compromise on our own position, we don't compromise on our own ability to be part of that global trading system, because we have to acknowledge that we are small, we do not have natural resources, and we have been able to survive because we are part of that global trading system. and we must continue to do that. Fundamental principles of our foreign policy remains relevant today. I'm very sure it will continue to remain relevant in the future. Although we need to be mindful, how do we adjust in relation to the dynamics of those relationships? So when I talk about being relevant, for example, how do we continue to engage our partners in different fora? So we continue to engage them and ensure that the key values remain to be part of the mind share of majority of our partners out there.
There has been some discussion regarding Singapore's posture on the international stage. I think in 2016 also we had the article written by Professor Kishore. He has some skepticism regarding Singapore punching above its weight. What's your take on Singapore in terms of how should we posture ourselves, how should we position ourselves when it comes to international disputes, issues and mediation?
Well, first and foremost, I think we should look at it from the perspective that we position ourselves in a manner that is of interest to us. We don't go out and tell people that we are good in A, B, C, D. We go out and share our perspective because it's of interest to us. The Trump-Kim Summit, for example, we didn't put our hands and say, do it here. I think because of the reputation that Singapore has, to be able to execute a very important summit of this nature in relation to providing a safe and secure environment for the two leaders to come speaks volume of the confidence that the organizers have of what Singapore can offer. So we don't have to tell people, but through what we have been able to achieve, I think it will speak volume of what others will think of us. In relation to where we should position ourselves in international disputes resolution, now, certainly, we are small, we should be mindful not to be engulfed in international disputes that will require lots of resources. We shouldn't be silent, nor should we not take a position.
Is there a greater scope for public participation, and how do you think that some of these forms of participation can be manifested in Singapore?
Foreign policy ought to be in the blood of every Singaporean. It had to be the responsibility of every Singaporean. Foreign policy is about ensuring that Singapore is known to members of the international community. And it's not just diplomats who go out and talk to their counterparts. Business people go out and they have business partners in different parts of the world. And it's important for them to know who and what Singapore stands for. Students go out on exchange programs. They receive and become hosts to their counterparts from different countries to Singapore. And it's incumbent upon them to share Singapore's perspective, what Singapore stands for. Not just from the outward manifestation of economic growth, but really the dynamics of Singapore society, for example, our social cohesion, our unity. So engaging Singaporeans on every aspect of Singapore's life, preparing them to appreciate and share is important.
What about foreign policy literacy in terms of equipping our citizens with some basic understanding, some angles and perspectives on what's going on?
Yes.
Because I do understand that there are many outreach programs to inform our citizens regarding our social issues, our economic issues.
Sure.
Do you think that it can also be good to perhaps replicate the same model, but just that this time now we are doing foreign policy literacy?
I think we are already doing, but you're absolutely right. Whenever we do something, of course we can do more, and we should do more. How do we interest Singaporeans on foreign policy? I think the challenge really is not to see it just as or label it as foreign policy, because then they may have this notion that, that is not for me to hear. But rather it's an issue of how important it is for Singaporeans to understand what we are facing and how they should be able to appreciate what had happened. We saw some of the challenges we've had with regards to the railway issue, the water issue and all. And I think Singaporeans saw the maturity of the leadership in dealing with our counterparts from Malaysia, and we should continue to show them how we should manage some of these issues. So another example is Recently we signed the Singapore Convention on Mediation,
Yes.
right? When we did that, it was a very proud moment for Singapore, and it should be for Singaporeans too. And I think this is another good example how we should continue to then engage Singaporeans and explain to them why this convention is significant. Why is this convention important for Singapore? For a small country to be given the honor of having a United Nations convention named after it is indeed an honor. And we should be proud as Singaporeans. I think if young people are interested in foreign policy, it's to our advantage, actually, and we'll be happy to engage more. This session, for example, is a good opportunity for us to reach out to the undergraduate population, for example. If there are young people out there who are keen to learn more about the Foreign Service, to come to us, and we're more than happy to see what we can do together.
Sure. Okay, Smith. With that, we have come to the end of this interview. Thank you much.
Thank you very much.